Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me after a brief hiatus is Raka Sudhakar Rao-garu, and we're going to be talking about some things in and around the city of Hyderabad, the Kingdom of Hyderabad, the Liberation Day that is coming up, 17th of September, and more. Let's welcome Raka Garu. Raka Garu, Namaskaram. Welcome to PGurus channel. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, sir. I'm doing fine. After a short gap, I'm
Yes,
back again.
sir. And
Happy to be back again.
on behalf of all our viewers, heartfelt condolences to you for your loss of your mother. Mother's loss is irreplaceable. I mean, without a doubt, she is the one who shapes us, gives us that perspective of the window of the world around us. And very, that's why we say, right, Mata, Pita, Guru, Daivam. Before you pray to your God, you first pray to your mother. So I'm very sorry for that loss. But again, everybody has to go sometime. Thank you, sir. Now, today let's talk about what used to happen in what was Bhagyanagar. You can start from where does this name Bhagyanagar come? Because Hyderabad is a 15th century or 14th century name. But when did Bhagyanagar come to this area? We can start from there and then Ganapati Utsav and so on, sir.
Yes. Well, Bhagyanagar is a very interesting history, sir, because this place was originally known as Golconda. Golconda again is it has come from a word called Gollakonda because this area was under the rule of the Yadava kings. So Yadavas in Telugu are known as Gollas. So thus this was Gollakonda. But then gradually over a period of time, the word got corrupted because of the Muslim influence, the Urdu influence, and it became Golconda. And a lot of people started confusing it with Golconda because the whole fort is circular in shape. So they started thinking that this is Golconda. But then from Golconda, the city was named Hyderabad because of the then ruler's mother, Hyder Mahal. And that's how this came to be known as Hyderabad. But then Bhagyanagar is also equally old, name. And the origin, of course, there are two or three different theories. One, some people say that the Tanashahs, the Qutub Shahis, the last of their king was in love with a girl from the Golla community whose name was Bhagyamma, and that's how this became Bhagyanagar. And some people say that that may not be true. There was a Bhagamati, there was a historic character called Bhagamati, and the city is named after her. And yet others say that there is a Bhagyalakshmi temple, which is quite old, and this city has derived its name from Bhagyalakshmi. Of course, all the three ideas are in currency, but then there are some people who say that there is nothing called Bhagyamati or Bhagyalakshmi or nothing of that sort because Bhagyalakshmi temple is a recent arrival at the Charminar area. This is the argument of some people, but then the large section of the people, the Bhagyanagar, reference to Bhagyanagar, they are there in the British accounts, in the accounts of the foreigners. So Bhagyanagar surely must have had a history of its own. Maybe because of the Asafzahis and others, this word must have fallen into disuse. Otherwise, the old timers still call this as Bhagyanagar. I remember very well as a child, we used to sing a song, Idenandi Bhagyanagar, Modu Kotla Andhulaku Mukhya Pattanam. This song, the film song, written by I think Dasharathi or Narayan Reddy, but then we used to sing it very popularly, and Hyderabad was then referred to as Bhagyanagar. Savarkar's Satyagraha for the liberation of Hyderabad also was called Bhagyanagar Satyagraha. So Bhagyanagar also is a very old name, and it has its own antiquity. But over a period of time, Hyderabad, because of the Muslim rules, has overshadowed Hyderabad and Bhagyanagar.
Thank you, sir. Now let
In
us
fact,
come forward to last century when Ganesh Utsav became a driving force to unite Hindus and to also show some sort of a resistance to the British, whether it was Lokmanya Tilak in Maharashtra. How did that transpose itself into Hyderabad? Was it that it came here, or was it in parallel? What are your memories of that event, Ganesh Utsav in Bhagyanagar?
so the Bhagyanagar, the Ganesh festival, the tradition of Ganesh festival, the Samuhik Ganesh festival tradition has a very interesting history. So because the Hyderabad state prior to 1948 encompassed uh, quite a few districts from Maharashtra, the Marathwada region, the Beed, Parmani, Nanded. All these were part of Hyderabad. So the ideas from Maharashtra were seeping in to the Marathwada region, and from Marathwada region they entered into the uh, Hyderabad city, and then to different parts of the Nizam state, so to say. You would be interested to know that Arya Samaj was founded in Mumbai, and within 5 years of Arya Samaj's founding, the branch of Arya Samaj was founded in Dharur, Maharashtra, which was then a part of Nizam state, and thus the Arya Samaj started spreading across the nook and cranny of the erstwhile Hyderabad state. Telangana included, parts of Karnataka included. Same way, Tilak started the Ganesh festival in Pune in 1883, and by 1885, uh, the Ganesh Nimajjan has come to a village called Kubir in Adilabad district, which was bordering Maharashtra. And the Damindar of Kubir was a relative of Lokmanya Balagangadhar Tilak, and Tilak himself attended the first Ganesh festival in Kubir village, which is in 2 hours drive from Adilabad's district headquarters. And the Ganesh festival began to be celebrated in those areas. It gradually spread to Bainsa and other Marathi dominated areas of Adilabad, Nizamabad, because those areas were under the influence of Pune and all these places. And Tilak was a big influence. And in fact, in 1880, around 1905, Tilak himself personally visited Kubir to take part in the Ganesh festival there, which was organized, and that festival is being organized still today. And quite uniquely, they use Ganesha made of wood instead of Ganesha made of either plaster of Paris or uh, other material. The Ganesha is made of wood, and it is worshipped. It is immersed and then taken out and kept, preserved for the next year. So this is, Kubir Ganesh Utsav is in many ways the first Ganesh Utsav, but by that time, by 1905, there was an organization in the old city of Hyderabad near Shalibanda called Bharat Gunavardhak Samaj, which was founded by Maharashtrian youths in 1905. And in 1905, they organized the first Ganesh Utsav in on the in the premises of Bharat Gunavardhak Sabha. Several Maharashtrian youths, Vakratunda Dikshit, Narayan Rao Dikshit, and Narayan Rao Samavate, so on and so forth, they were inspired by Lokmanya Balagangadhar Tilak, and the first Ganesh was Pandal. Ganesh Utsav was celebrated, public Utsav was celebrated in Bharat Gunavardhak Sabha way back in 1905, almost at the same time when the Kubir festival started. So that's how the idea came from Maharashtra. Gradually, Hyderabad city in those days, particularly places like 𝗤𝙜𝘐𝑚 and all these places, 𝗤𝙜𝘐𝑚, Sultan Bazar, and then Ramkot, all these areas had a huge Marathi population. So the Ganesh Utsav began to be celebrated in all these areas, and slowly it's spreading to non-Maratha area, non-Maharashtrian areas also, and across Telangana. Samohik Ganesh Utsav is a very common feature. But then the way now it is being celebrated, the Samohik Utsav, where all the procession, the immersion is immersion takes place in one place at an appointed time. This is, of course, this has come somewhere in 1980s, early 80s, and it has its own histories.
Now, the Nizam had imposed a lot of restrictions on what you could and could not do as far as Hindu religious festivals were concerned. Everything had to be done despite the draconian rules in place. And, today we see this as a matter of fact now. Across India now, you have Ganesh Pandals. But I remember growing up as a kid, we never had any Ganesh Pandal kind of thing in Tamil Nadu. Nothing. It was only in Hyderabad, it was a big deal. Hyderabad, Secunderabad, it was a big deal. I mean, you had 20-foot Ganeshas, and there used to be competition. My Ganesha is bigger than your Ganesha, that sort of stuff. And this has now become a huge thing. But let's go back to 1910 period. How did the people receive it? Because, there was a bit of suppression for 500, 600 years. I think 13th century or 14th century is when the Muslim invaders started ruling this area, isn't it?
Yes. Hyderabad had a continuous Muslim rule. First the Qutub Shahis, then the Bahmanis, and Bahmanis, then Qutub Shahis, and then, of course, you had the Asafzahis who came and ruled nearly for 200 years. So for 400, 450 years, Hyderabad was continuously under the Islamic rule, with various levels of suppression of the Hindu festivities. Most of these Ganesh festivities were secret affairs. Many of these festivities were, quite secret affairs, with happening deep inside the Hindu-dominated areas, and the procession used to be seen only at the last moment, and then taking permission was also a huge problem. So immersion in the local, wells was happening. So that's how, for example, 𝗤𝙧𝙤𝘀𝗿 and all these areas, local water bodies used to be the place where the Ganeshas used to be immersed. But then in the 1980s, in the 1970s and 1960s, with the communalism raising its ugly head, these Ganesh processions were repeatedly under attack. Let me tell you, in 1979, if I'm not wrong, the late 1970s, a Bonalu procession was organized in the old city of Hyderabad, where Jayendra Saraswati Swamigal was the chief guest. The procession was attacked, stones were pelted, and some stones, I'm told, fell on on the person of the holy Swami, and this actually gave rise to the idea that Hindus must come out with community processions. All the Ganeshas, small and big Ganeshas, should come together and take out one single procession. Initially, the idea was mooted by an Anna Samajist called 𝗤𝙑𝙬𝙤. It was backed by Vande Mataram Ramchandra Rao-ji, who was the chairperson of the official language committee in those days, who was an independent MLA. He defeated Chennareddy's, I think, father-in-law from Medchal.
Rangareddy,
K.V. Rangareddy, of course, from Medchal. And then these leaders were supported by Arya Samaj and other mathas and mandirs. And then this idea of united community Ganesh Nimajjan started. And prior to that, the processions were disjointed and they were repeatedly under attack. So I think this attack on Jayendra Saraswati Swamigal has actually spurred the Hindu society into thinking that there must be a community affair, and that was born the Bhagyanagar Ganesh Utsav Samiti in the early 80s, and Hussain Sagar was chosen as the venue for the immersion of the idols, and Hussain Sagar was christened as Vinayak Sagar. And the main yatra used to start from a place called Balapur, which is the farthest place in the old city. And the first Ganesha will start from Balapur, and then the Ganeshas from various lanes and by lanes would converge on a place called Mozam Jahi Market, a very famous landmark, a market constructed by the Nizams and named after one of his scions. It is called Mozam Jahi Market, and it was rechristened as I think Vinayak Chowk, and the first major assembly at Vinayak Chowk, and the unified procession would go up to the Hussain Sagar, and the police and the district government administration also felt that this was an easy way to maintain the law and order, and then providing facilities to the immersion. So that's how this idea of Bhagyanagar Ganesh Nimajjan started in the city of Hyderabad, particularly old city. Now around 3 lakh Ganeshas and over 40 lakh activists, they take part in the Ganesh Nimajjan, and by far Hyderabad's Ganesh Nimajjan is the largest of the Ganesh Nimajjans. Of course, Bombay, Pune, and other places have a longer history. Of course, they are associated with Tilak and other, freedom fighters. But then, in sheer dimension, uh, the participation, number of idols, and the route, and all these things, and I think Hyderabad beats every other Ganesh, procession in this country. But then this has also brought in some kind of Hindu unity. The attacks on the Hindu processions got reduced because of the Samuhik Nimajjan that was undertaken in the 80s, and that was spearheaded by leaders like Vande Mataram Ramchandra Rao, Jairam 𝗒𝙗𝘁𝘁, who's a very senior RSS leader at that point in time, and then also Mr. Ale Narendra, who went on to become a union minister later, and a very staunch pro-Hindu leader of the old city, who was even shot by Majlis goons. He suffered bullet injuries during 1983 elections. So that way, the Bhagyanagar Ganesh Utsav, the procession has given a kind of self-respect for the Hindus, a kind of safety for them, and now it has become a matter of a display of Hindu unity in Hyderabad city. So that's how this has now spread to different parts of the state, and now I find that even in places like Srikakulam, Vijayanagar, which did not have a history of community processions and all that, they have they have Ganesh Utsav Samitis, and community processions are taken out almost across the state. And I hear that even in Tamil Nadu, the processions are huge, and some of the Ganesh idols, particularly the beach area of Chennai, are taller than those of Hyderabad.
Yes, indeed. There are some controversies in Tamil Nadu. For example, they try to regulate the manufacturing of Ganeshas. They say you shouldn't use this, you shouldn't use plaster of Paris. All sorts of regulations are put. Basically, they want to harass the heck out of you so that you don't end up making Ganeshas. But still, the Sangh goes ahead and does it. So this is an interesting tug of war, but it is not in the same scale as what I have seen in the old city, and especially Hyderabad area. Secunderabad also it's there. Hyderabad is where I've seen it in the most favor. See, I've lived in both sides, Raka Garu, in Secunderabad as well as in Hyderabad. So I have a flavor of both these things, and I studied in old city. So I know exactly how the dynamics were in during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, how things evolve. Now, this year, when is the Visarjan, sir? Which day is the Visarjan?
17th is when the immersion takes place. 17th is
Okay.
also the day when Hyderabad was liberated way back in 1948. That way, this has a double significance this time.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, viewers, we are going to
May
bring
I
with
just
you.
add one point, sir? After this Bhagyanagar Ganesh Nimajjan, the community affair has come into being, the communal riots have come down in Hyderabad. Otherwise, communal riots were a regular feature in the old city of Hyderabad twice, thrice a year. But the last communal riots that we heard of was way back in 2012, and that was only for one day. Usually, I know of a communal riot in Hyderabad which went on for over 50 days. But now, the last communal riot was in 2012, and that was only for one day. It started in the morning and dissipated by evening. So, the Hindu unity, the sense of Hindu unity, the organization in the Hindus, among the Hindus, has been actually preventing the recurrence of communal riots in Hyderabad. And Ganesh Utsav has gone on to play a very significant role in reducing or in decimating the communal, violence in Hyderabad. Tensions still remain, distrust still remains, but then it doesn't take the form of a riot.
You know,
I think
Raka
that is the
Garu,
singular most contribution.
much of these rioting is also infighting amongst the Congress contenders for the chief minister. If you remember, there was a period where in a 5-year period you had 4 chief ministers, and that continued for a while. And they used to jerk around. So that is when Indira Gandhi from center used to impose one chief minister after the other. And every time somebody wanted to show their strength, they would start a communal riot in Hyderabad. So this had become regular. I mean, I was studying at that time, and it was a hellish experience, sir. And
Yes.
you never knew when curfew will be imposed, and then suddenly everything will be closed. Then they'll come and lathi charge you. I was a small boy, but I used to use bicycle to go to school. It was a harrowing experience. Anyway, so now the Hyderabad Liberation Day is, viewers, I wanted to tell you, tomorrow most likely we're going to have a discussion about the role of Arya Sama in standing up for the rights of Hindus, as well as being the medium of the freedom from Hyderabad, from the Nizam movement in Hyderabad. A lot happened. Many of us are not familiar with all that. We've already done a Hindi version, but the English version is a different context, so do watch that one. So today, my question to you is, this liberation is a day now. We are I think what, 1948 now, 52, 76 years. We had not had this kind of a liberation day until in the recent past. What I'm trying to say is 17th September was not considered to be something special. This interest, renewed interest, is heartening to see, because one by one, we are getting back the original 𝗤𝙗 flavor. To, to you, when do you remember Liberation Day being celebrated?
So Liberation Day actually has become popular only in the 1990s, because I have to tell you that there was a concerted attempt on the part of the rulers and the communists, and also the Majlis Ittihad al-Muslimin and other communal forces, to obfuscate the history of Hyderabad liberation. Everyone had their own interest in actually, suppressing the history of this movement. One, the state of Hyderabad was cleaved into 3. The Kannada-speaking part went to Karnataka, so the history of Karnataka, the Hyderabad Karnataka, which waged a relentless battle against Nizams, that has been lost for the people of Telangana. Same way, the Marathi-speaking 4 or 5 districts, be it Parbhani, Nanded, so on and so forth, they became part of the Marathwada, and they began to be celebrated as Marathwada Mukti Divas, not Hyderabad Mukti Divas. So Marathwada Mukti Divas is a national festival in Maharashtra, but they only talk about the liberation of that part of Maharashtra, which was earlier part of the Nizam, but they never talk about the whole of Hyderabad state. In case of Telangana, the people started talking about only the liberation of Telangana. And fortunately or unfortunately, in the Telangana region, 3 major forces worked for the freedom of this region. One was the Congress party, which was led by Swami Ramananda Tirtha and others. The second was the Arya Samaj, led by leaders like Pandit Narendra Ji, Vinayak Rao, 𝗣𝗚𝗂𝘀𝗀, Keshav Rao Koratkar, Vande Mataram, Ramchandra Rao, so on and so forth. And the third force was the Communist Party, the CPI, which was quite powerful in the undivided Nalgonda and Warangal districts and parts of Karimnagar. So these three forces fought against Nizam. It was not a joint fight. Each one was waging his own war. So each one has his own narrative of the liberation of Hyderabad, post-liberation, post-September 17. Each one saw the history of Hyderabad differently. The Arya Samaj leaders who fought for the Hindu community in general, Hindu interests in general, and who promoted patriotism, 𝗤𝙧𝙤𝙀𝘀, so on and so forth, they were co-opted into the Congress government. So most of the Arya Samaj leaders went on to become ministers, and that's how the Congress party could buy the silence of Arya Samaj by co-opting them into the government. And most of these leaders, Gopal Rao 𝗏𝘂𝘁𝑇, 𝐺𝑠 𝗏𝘂𝘀𝑇, and then there's Vinayak Rao 𝗍𝗚𝗀𝗀𝗃, all these people, even Pandit Narendra Ji for that matter, who was in the vanguard of Shuddhi movement, he became an MLA and minister. So they stopped talking about the liberation of Hyderabad. The second thing is the Congress stopped talking about the liberation of Hyderabad because it wanted Muslim votes. So much so that in 1975, when the history of Hyderabad was brought by the Archives Department, there was no mention of the word Razakar in the 5-volume book on the history of Hyderabad. No mention of Razakars. So they wanted to push the whole story of Razakar under the carpet, and official histories was not written, and the district level histories were about the individuals, their contributions, and that's where they stopped. And the communists, they waged a war against the government of India till 1950. From 1948, September 17 till 1950, the communists waged a violent armed struggle against the government of India, of Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, so on and so forth. And they called it the Telangana Sayudha Poratam, the Telangana armed struggle. Today, unfortunately, because of the lack of awareness about this movement, the war waged by the communists against the government of India and the military of India is thought to be a movement for the freedom of Hyderabad. Both are different. Liberation of Hyderabad is different, and liberation, the communist fight against the government of India till 1950, that is for 2 years after Hyderabad's liberation, is an armed struggle. And this is the armed struggle against government of India that the communists are seeking to glorify. So there are 3 or 4 different narratives of how one should look at the Hyderabad's liberation. So the communists were peddling their narrative. The Congress wanted the people to forget the Razakar movement, and the Arya Samaj became an appendage of the Congress party, and gradually the movement became weak. And today Arya Samaj is a pale shadow of its own self. And if it holds a meeting on September 17, no more than 100 people attend. That's the state of affairs in Hyderabad today. So there is no one to tell the story of Hyderabad's liberation in Hyderabad these days. The generations that have fought against Nizam have vanished. The people who suffered atrocities have all gone away. So there are no memories in the present generation. So it was in 1990 that former Union Minister Vidyasagar Rao first mooted the idea of Hyderabad's liberation and celebrating Hyderabad's liberation. Naturally, both communists, Congress party, and the communal elements opposed it, and that's where the whole debate began. And now the BJP has co-opted this, and Sardar Patel's Jayanti is also celebrated. I think September 17 is when Nizam has surrendered to the Indian forces. The Razakars have been disbanded. So that day is celebrated as the liberation of the day of liberation of Hyderabad. So now the memories are now being sought to be brought back. So it's almost from 1948, 1950 till 1995-96. There is a complete blockage of information about this. So I think now it is coming back again. That's how this whole debate of liberation or integration or suppression of Hyderabad's interests, all these things are coming up, and the Razakars are now coming up with the fake stories that over there was a massacre of the Muslims after the uh, in the name of police action, 1948 and all that. There was indeed some violence, but the Razakar elements were killed. There is no doubt about. And Razakars physically waged a war against the government of India. It was not the army of Nizam which fought the government of India's armed forces. It was Razakars and communists who fought. And the weapons of Razakars went into the hands of communists. And the communists fought the government of India till 1950, which is 2 years after its actual liberation. So now the whole history is coming out of the closet, and the debate has now started raging, and the communists and the communal elements are waging a last ditch battle to actually salvage their prestige and try to obfuscate the history, the Razakar part of the history and others. They want to now somehow suppress and create a new narrative. That's where the things stand now, Sree Iyer.
Well, this year we are going to see a lot of celebrations in and around Hyderabad, so stay tuned for that, viewers. Raka Garu, we have a few questions from our viewers. Let's take a look at some questions, please.
Sir.
Shyam Tarun, thank you so much. Maithili wants to know, Raka Garu, namaskaram. It's observed that in the south of India, the festivities are more confined to home, whereas in north of India, it is a community function. Your views on the reasons behind this? Ganpati Utsav.
Yeah. That's not entirely true, Maithili Garu, because there are a lot of festivities. For example, Dasara festivities, for instance. In my childhood, Dasara festivity was a public affair. All the Vyayamshalas in the town, they used to take out procession, and the students of those Vyayamshalas used to display, demonstrate their physical prowess, like lifting of the weights, and then doing all those karasamu with the fire at the ends, and then lifting the some bicycles, lifting the stones. Sankranti was always a communal, community affair in South India. For instance, you had the cockfights, you had the community feasting, you had programs like lifting of weights and showing of physical prowess. So there were festivities like the Sankranti festivity, 𝗤𝙧𝙤𝙀 festivity, and many other festivities which were essentially community affairs. Over a period of time, I think there has been a change from 1980s across the Telugu states, and prior to that, maybe in the 70s and 60s in Tamil Nadu, where the community aspect of the festivities has gone missing. But then we always had community festivals. Jatras were an essential part of our daily life. There used to be jatras, there used to be Prabhala Utsavams all across the Andhra region, where every village used to prepare a Prabha, which is 40 feet tall, 30 feet tall, and then bring that Prabha in procession. And then even now the 𝗤𝙤𝙤 Prabha procession in the East Godavari district is a very elaborate affair. So we had our own community festivals, which we had lost over a period of time. So that way, there is no difference between North India and South India, Maithili Garu.
Thank you so much, Raka Garu. And viewers, I think there's one more one more observation from Shyam Tarun. Maybe time for BJP to start Ganesh festival in a large way in Tamil Nadu. Celebration of Hindu festival and also bring people together.
Yes, sir. I think since from 1980s onwards, this community celebration of Hindu festivals has picked up pace, and everywhere, including Tamil Nadu. The Tamil Nadu Ganesh Nimajjan, I remember very well in the early 90s when I visited Chennai. There used to be processions of Ganesha player processions, and the Nimajjanam used to take place in the beach area, despite the restrictions by the Dravidian government. So, my personal feeling is instead of BJP taking the lead, it should be the Hindu Samaj which should take the lead. The Hindu organization should take the lead, and the BJP might support it, because the moment BJP supports it, it becomes a political, thing. I think this, the effort should come from the Hindu society itself.
Very true, very true. Thank you so much, Raka Garu. And viewers will be back again next week. Do tune in to the program on the liberation of Hyderabad that will air tomorrow, most likely. Thank you, Raka Garu. We'll see you again tomorrow.